The Rebellion story is a mixed bag among Madoka fans. Some love it, some hate it, and others are indifferent. My personal history with Rebellion is a bit of a long one, but aside from a few episodes of the original series, I can say that Rebellion is my favourite piece of Madoka Magica media. Madoka Magica can be seen in two ways, with either Homura or Madoka as the protagonist. Taking this into account, if the original series saw Madoka as the primary focus, then Rebellion turns that on its head and sees Homura as the focus. However, it isn't the main story that I want to talk about today, rather a scene that I think is underappreciated, and that's the epilogue of Rebellion. Before continuing, it's important to explain the events leading up to this moment. After breaking a piece of the Law of Cycles, Madoka, away, Homura gains control and reshapes the universe in her vision. In this new world, Homura is a malevolent force to oppose Madoka's benevolent wish to liberate all magical girls. Homura has effectively created a world where all magical girls, except for herself, are freed from their duties, and she now forces the Incubators to bear the brunt of the despair that she and every other magical girl had to endure. Homura's actions aren't exactly evil, but because she is forced to go against Madoka's wish to fulfill her own and keep Madoka safe, she has no choice but to be viewed as a demon opposing the will of God, in this case, Madoka. With that explained, let's move on to the scene itself. The epilogue starts with two shots of Mitaki Harushita at night. The first appears to be a walkway, similar to the one that the girls walked past after subduing Hitomi's nightmare earlier in the film. And next is a familiar location, the hill which has served as a backdrop for many pivotal moments in the show. We then cut to see Homura sitting on a chair at the top of said hill, overlooking all of Mitaki Haru City. It's here we realize something is off, as the moon and the surrounding landscape is missing their right side. The school bell rings, but instead of the usual 4 notes, it's once again cut in half, and only plays 2. Homura's attention is then caught by grass rustling behind her, as we soon find out it's an incubator. Homura ignores it, and we find out that she has her new soul gem with her. She begins dancing as the incubator cowers in what can only be described as fear. Homura's dance brings her to the edge of the cut-off landscape, off of which she falls. The final scene we are left with is the incubator with its fur in tatters and shaking with a defeated but ever-present blank expression. Right off the bat, this scene is excellently shot, as to be expected from Shaft. Like the ending of TV series and movie 2, the focus is on Homura and the incubator. Unlike that original ending, however, this one's theme feels different. Where the TV and movie 2 ending offered us an ending with hope, Rebellion's ending leaves us with despair. But not quite in the literal sense. To explain that better, let's go back to the first ending of the series. Madoka has just made her wish and become the Law of Cycles. Only Homura remembers her, and fights the Wraiths in order to honor her wish. The ending, although providing us with a resolution to the conflict, isn't whole. It's false hope. Madoka may have liberated all magical girls, but we get hints that her wish and Homura's are clashing, as Homura's despair isn't being cleansed by the Law of Cycles. Homura is at that empty feeling in what should be a moment of hope, because Homura is empty at the end of the original series. Simply put, she has no hope for herself anymore. Rebellion's epilogue is almost the mirror to this ending. Homura has given Madoka a new world for her to live a normal life in, and has stopped the plans of the Incubators by becoming a demon. And although for Homura this is a good thing at first, we realize not all is as it seems. There's an underlying sense of despair with each of the characters, and for various reasons. Sayaka's memories are wiped, and she's given a second chance at being human. But while this is great at face value, anybody who knows Sayaka would know that this normal version of her just isn't right. Mami, although she now has Nagisa to fill in the role of someone else in her life, is missing a strong, reliable friend that she needs to be with her. She's missing a family. There are plenty more examples of this scattered throughout the film, but the most important one is at the end of the film, before the credits, in Homura's new universe when she confronts Madoka. It's here that Homura comes to terms with the fact that she cannot truly have her wish granted, and that Madoka cannot be completely contained and kept safe. Earlier in the movie, she even knew this, when she was only able to break off a part of the law of cycles rather than completely overthrowing her. But I don't think this is because she can't, and rather it's because she won't. Homura has to accept that she cannot give in to her wish completely because it would mean destroying the Madoka that she loves. Homura's despair is being suppressed by false hope that she can save Madoka. In yet another interesting contrast to the first ending, it's important to bring up the use of the Incubator. With the TV and movie 2 ending, the Incubator was with Homura and at that point unable to do anything about what had happened. But it was there willingly so it could listen to Homura's story. In hindsight, we now know that the Incubator planned to contain the law of cycles, but by the end of Rebellion, the Incubators have been thwarted by Homura. Now the Incubator is there, not out of choice, but by force. With strong implications that Homura forced the Incubators to feel emotions, the Incubator we see in the epilogue appears to express fear. This is the first time that we ever see an Incubator show any sign of emotion, and it's fear. That's insane. When you look deeper, it seems as though this is setting the tone of Madoka Magica going forwards. Fear. Shots with Homura are very important in this series, and you'll see that throughout the original run there are these sets of shots with Homura that has her change position with each cut, hinting at her ability to pause time. That specific implication isn't important here, but it's important to keep in mind that she's a character that the animators were very careful with when it came to this series. In the epilogue, during almost every shot with Homura, she's focused in the middle of the frame, and only during 2 cuts is she off-center. Once when she looks towards the Incubator, and once more at the end of her dance. Homura being in the center of the frame references how she is the one seemingly in charge now, which is naturally fitting for her newfound role in recreating the universe. However, Homura isn't fully in control, and she knows that. That's why not every single shot is focused to the center. Homura's last on-screen moment is when she falls off of the edge of the landscape. But before we can even talk about that, let's talk about the scenery itself. Backdrops in Madoka Magica can paint a picture and set the theme all on their own, and of course Rebellion's epilogue is no different. The imagery of the world being split in half could be a representation of Homura's mental state. She's broken, almost split between what she wants and what she wants for Madoka. Naturally, the imagery of everything being split harkens back to the scene when Madoka and the Law of Cycles became 2 separate entities. At that point, Madoka, like Homura, is not whole. This scene shows clear and contrasting differences between the 2 halves. The left half is illuminated by the moon, and the right half is shrouded completely in darkness. In its most simplest form, this could represent the light of Madoka and the dark of Homura, who will eventually clash. But on a deeper level, it also represents Homura's inner conflicts between the right thing to do and her desires. The half of the world which Homura falls off into is the right half, shrouded in darkness. And while it can be interpreted as just that, Homura succumbing to a dark nature, there's something more here. Homura isn't evil, and understanding that is important. She doesn't do these things out of malice but out of love. This love has corrupted her, and that's what this represents. Homura is on a path with little to no salvation. She's not falling to darkness, but rather falling out of reach of Madoka's salvation. She doesn't have a choice. Her despair grows because she believes she's doing the right thing, is acting on love. If you think about it, it's rather ironic, as in this moment, Homura is literally and figuratively falling for Madoka once again. One can't talk about Madoka Magica without mentioning the absolutely stellar OST. The song that plays during the epilogue is called Not Yet. It's a beautiful melody with no lyrics and only 2 major instruments, a musette accordion and strings, plus its bass line of what appears to be harp or pizzicato strings. Strings in Madoka's OST have always been associated with the characters in different ways, but most notably they're used for Madoka's songs, as they naturally give off a heavenly, almost mystical feel to their sound. Accordions are a new addition to the OST, however, as this is one of a few songs that feature them as a main instrument. The three that I've found in particular are also in Rebellion's credits theme, Kimi no Gi no Niwa, and an earliest moment in the movie with the song Raise the Curtain, in which Homura begins to piece together the truth behind the fantasy world that they are all in. Each character has an instrument, sometimes multiple, designated to them. Madoka, as I previously mentioned, could be associated with strings. For Sayaka, it's mostly violin, but will often be mixing with other classical instruments. Mami is a mix of soft strings and flute, rather. Kyoko is often associated with guitar, both acoustic and hard and metal alike, and Homura, up until this point, was associated with the use of glockenspiel, bells, harps, and vibraphone. But now that Homura has taken on this new role, the musette accordion in these songs represents it. Typically, musette accordions are used in songs about love. This usage was very popular in France. So it's no surprise that Madoka Magica, a series which takes inspiration from European culture, would adopt this instrument. And who better to use the instrument most commonly associated with love for than Homura? This song is very short but powerful in telling its story. For example, unlike Kimi no Gi no Niwa, the musette takes the lead at the beginning, implying Homura's hold over the new world. But once the school bell tolls, it suddenly changes. Now the strings have taken over, and as Homura turns to see what is shaking in the field behind her, we see that her expression is tired, and in this brief sign of weakness, she shows that she's scared. This is where we finally start to see Homura's fear. She is, and always has been, scared of losing Madoka, and Madokami's implied presence would undo everything that Homura has worked for. It's clear that Homura thinks she's in control, or rather thinks that she's done the right thing. But because the strings here imply Madokami's presence, we realize that Homura's sign of weakness may hint at this crushing feeling of fear that has stuck with her for all this time, which keeps nagging at her. But she manages to fight back, shown by the musette flourishing back into the song alongside the strings. Timing is everything when it comes to scoring a scene, and exactly like how the strings imply Madokami, once the musette comes back into the song, Homura has moved away from the incubator, and for the first time, we see her dancing. Much like the original ending where Homura adopted Madoka's bow as her own, now with Rebellion, Homura has adopted Madoka's elegant dancing. The usage of the harp shows us that a part of the original Homura is still there. It's that part that keeps her love for Madoka around. She cannot and will not let go of it. There is no climactic rise here, and the song peters out to a close as quietly as it began. Although the musette comes back into the song, it doesn't overtake the strings, and in a direct allusion to that, even though Homura rewrote the universe, she didn't completely remove the law of cycles from reality. Perhaps this implies that Homura's new universe and the universe with the law of cycles coexist in a multiverse of some kind, but that's simply speculation for now. Yet, this isn't the first time that we hear this song. In fact, it's basically the main motif of the movie. The motif itself is known as Once We Were, first featured in the song of the same name, which happens to be the very first track of the movie. The next time we hear it is in Mada Dame Yo, and this is the first song that features an accordion but as a backing instrument. With this in mind, the track being named Once We Were might be a reference to the time that Homura wants to return to, the time where she could safely protect Madoka before the rebellion. Homura's labyrinth, in and of itself, is the culmination of her desires to protect Madoka and to keep her from ever being in danger. The Madoka in the labyrinth was likely never real, not up until Madokami appeared at least, and it was merely Homura's ideal version of her, and specifically Homura's way of keeping her safe. There's not a lot more that I think you can really take from this scene, mostly because we don't know what the sequel to Rebellion is going to be about. Regardless, there is so much you can extract from here, and it's all contained within a minute-long scene. The writers and artists for the show have weaved an excellent story that, in my opinion, is severely underrated. and now with the announcement of movie 4, Walpurgis no Kaiten, we will soon be seeing what the resolution of this scene will end up being. I have some ideas as to where this movie is going, but we'll just have to wait and see. Lastly, I'd like to thank you for watching this video and listening to me ramble on about Madoka Magica again. I love this series a lot, and I've wanted to make this video for a very long time. I don't exactly have the best recording setup, so it was kind of pushing me back, but I decided, you know what, screw it, I want to get my thoughts out there, and so I did. If you enjoyed this video, I would very much appreciate a like and subscribe. You don't have to, of course, but I plan to try and do more Madoka videos in the future, so if you like my analysis of the series, then stick around, because I plan to do more. Feel free to share this video, and more importantly, feel free to make your own video in this type of style. I would love for Madoka Magica to come back into full swing to celebrate the announcement of Walpurgis no Kaiten, and I'm inviting anybody who would be interested in dissecting some of their favorite scenes from the series to do a video like this. This was inspired by, I can't remember who started it, but it was inspired by, oh yes, it was Nando v Movies, I believe, who started it, but it was heavily inspired by the One Marvelous Scene series, in which creators came together and talked about their favorite moments from Marvel movies. Yeah, this might not get a lot of attention though, so that's totally fine as well, but yeah, I would love to see people's opinion on their favorite scenes, and yeah, once again, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye.